I've been waiting all year for this movie. It's finally here, so today we're talking about the MCU's newest 14th movie, Doctor Strange.
Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality.
So here's the plot of Doctor Strange. First of all, it's a straightforward origin story, and in it we have Caecilius, who is this follower of the Ancient One. He steals some forbidden ritual, and he's trying to bring Earth into Dormammu's dark dimension so that everyone can live forever. And then you have Stephen Strange, who's this amazing surgeon. He ends up mangling his hands, so he ends up in Kathmandu, learning the mystical arts so he can fix himself, so he can go back to being a doctor. But then he ends up having the spiritual awakening and ends up embroiled in this fight between the dark dimension and Earth and like keeping it safe. One of the things that I like most about the movie is that it is opening up the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the more mystical threats, okay? And this has been something that's been going on in the comics universe for like ever, okay? In the 616 universe, there's totally been magic going on for so long, and I'm so excited to finally see this piece of the puzzle get fit in there and like introduce people to a new angle that's going on. I think that most people who are totally new to Doctor Strange are gonna like this movie. I think that this is a really great introduction for people who have no idea about Doctor Strange or magical, mystical stuff in the Marvel Universe. But for me, as someone who is familiar, who has been there, who does already buy I'm already drinking your weird Kool-Aid, you know? So, you know, I want to see a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? I had I have personal problems, okay? Like that's the issue. Like I have personal problems. I had really high expectations for this movie because I see myself as a self-appointed ambassador of magical thinking. You know, I think that shit's really important. There's not enough of it in our society. There's not enough imagination and creativity and like encouragement. So I felt like this movie really has an awesome opportunity to kind of like get people into like some weirder things, you know, like tell people like stuff that I want to say to them, okay? Like this is such a huge world stage, and Marvel really has an opportunity to say something that is important to me. And even though the movie is really solid and it's really good, it didn't necessarily hit all the points that like I wanted to have happen, which again is a total personal problem, okay? I have a fucking political agenda here with this movie, okay? Like it's not like I'm not judging it on the standards of a normal movie, and so I'm the asshole, and I totally understand that. So let's get into the philosophy of Doctor Strange a little bit. Even though it may not have gone as far as I would like it to go, it's still a great launching pad for basics of magical thinking, okay? And that's like one thing that I'm really excited about. Especially that we have Tilda Swinton in the role of the Ancient One. And she has like so many great lines. Like she has so many great lines. She's planting so many seeds. I really hope people out there like kind of think about the stuff that she's saying, because there is more to the material plane, and I like that she's bringing that up. She tells him, you think you know how the world works, and you think this material universe is all there is, but what if I told you this reality was only one of many, you know? And it's like, yes. I wish there was like so much more of that, but like I get it. This is like a Marvel movie. This is a Disney movie that's like a vehicle for like a giant franchise, so they're really not trying to like start a spiritual awakening in audiences around the world. That's not their goal, but I think it's awesome that a little bit of stuff got in there. So I'd say my favorite scene in Doctor Strange is where she opens his third eye and like he goes through this crazy cosmic trip of like seeing the universe and like the heart of the universe and all these different dimensions and things like that. And the hands coming out of the hands, like, that was so great. That was the best part, man. Those hands and hands and hands, that was like the best. I really needed like way more of that. Like honestly, I wish they had done more trippy psychedelic stuff than like Inception stuff, even though that stuff was done really well and they pushed it to the next level. I still feel like I need more like weird psychedelic stuff. Well, it had a lot of elements in there. There's like a little bit of 2001 going on in there. There was definitely a little bit of what I imagine the Dark Phoenix put Jason Weingard through, and like he's like given this glimpse of cosmic madness, you know, and I'm just I love that weird stuff. I need way more blacklight colors in this movie. Like, every time they did it, I was so fucking pumped. And, like, I just need more. I just need more of that. Just turn up that weirdness knob. I do think they were a little afraid to go super weird with it. Like, I felt like they played it really safe. But I understand what they're doing. They're playing it from the angle of most people have no idea about anything psychedelic and we have to kind of like warm them up to it. It's the safe move. It's the right move to do. This movie is definitely a visual effects vehicle. There's like so many amazing visual effects going on. The slow motion car crash was just like, oh my God, it was so brutal. What they did with his hands, where they had that medical horror stuff, like I'm a big fan of medical horror, so when I saw those pins in his hands and they were like, ugh, like it was just so great. The portal effect looked really great. In fact, we had done a very similar portal effect when we did a cosplay of Spiral. We had some steel wool on a string and we lit it on fire and then just like did it in a circle and we got all these sparks going off and did this like time delay photo of it. I assume that's what portals really look like. I feel like there was definitely a lot of borrowing from the Harry Potter universe and the way that they translated magic. Like I felt like when they pitched this movie, you know, they were like, hey, we're gonna mix Harry Potter with Inception with a Marvel movie, you know, and that's kind of like what they told like the white hairs that are in charge of everything. And so that's kind of what they just did. Harry Potter really has established how magic looks in movies, and so of course they're just going to keep going with what has already been established because it just kind of like eases you in. It's like a warm bath, like people have already been there before. But because they went the safe route, I feel like it's a missed opportunity for doing something like way cooler. I did really enjoy how they made the dark dimension look. I loved those black light colors. So now let's talk about the characters. I just have to confess that like, I just love Tilda Swinton. She is like a unicorn. She's androgynous. She's amazing. She's beautiful. I want to be her. She's really the perfect person to be initiating people into weirdness. By far the best character in the whole movie was the Cape of Levitation. Like, he was so cute. It made me want a living coat, like, really bad. Like, because I love coats. I am always cold all the time, so, like, coats are my favorite thing. Great. I loved it when it was wiping his face. The best scene with the Cape, obviously, is when he falls down, the Cape goes after him, and then he comes back up, you know, levitating with the Cape. That was, like, such a great hero shot. I did really love the way that the seamstress created the Cape as well. I mean, aesthetically, it was really cool because they had it an asymmetric, where one side of it went up over his shoulder, and the other side went down his shoulder, and he had this like really cool like kind of shoulder cap epaulette thing going on that was like really well done. Whoever made that cape, you go. In fact, it makes me sad that I liked the animated cape better than I liked Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange. Now let's talk about Doctor Strange himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. And quite honestly, okay, Benedict Cumberbatch, he's super hot, okay? He looks really great. His voice, he's got one of the best voices in Hollywood. He's one of the most sexiest voices in Hollywood. But for some reason, I don't think he's the best casting for Doctor Strange. Here's the thing. In the comic books, Doctor Strange, he's got a little bit of swag. He's got weird swag. I mean, he's not gonna like attract normal chicks, but like weird chicks are totally gonna be into him. I mean, he's got the gray at the temple. I mean, he's a very charming guy, you know. I mean, but in the MCU, Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange, I didn't get anything. I got zero tingles. And like, I don't know why. He looks the part. He sounds the part, but he just doesn't have that charisma. It's like something is just missing. And I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch is having a really hard time riding the line of being a lovable asshole, you know, because that's Doctor Strange. He's kind of arrogant. You know, he's got a little bit of the Iron Man things going on, but he pulls it off, like Robert Downey Jr. pulls it off. Becomes was a bit flat. All right, he's a bit flat, and I think part of that comes from the fact that we never really had time with him. Like, we didn't have time with his character. We're kind of just thrown into it. Here's an example. In the beginning of the movie, where before he becomes Doctor Strange, and before his accident, and he's just hanging out as Stephen Strange, and he's got like all this swag, he fixed this guy's brain, whatever, and he's talking to Nurse Palmer, and they're supposed to be kind of having this like kind of romantic moment, but it just really fell flat for me. Like, I didn't believe it, I didn't buy it. I felt like we needed some better character moments with him. That's one of my criticisms of the movie overall, is that it feels like it's really trying hard to fit all this stuff in, and because we're trying to fit so much in here, that we're not really getting to slow down and be with these characters. I would say the biggest flaw of the movie is that I don't really feel like Doctor Strange earned his magic. We don't see how long he's in Kamar-Taj for. It feels like maybe a couple of months or something like that. I don't really get this sense of like time that he's like really working really hard. And I felt like they were very much trying to do the Dark Knight montage, but like when Christopher Nolan's, like, I really believed that Bruce Wayne had been training for a really long time. Like, I totally bought it. And with this, the way they did it, it just didn't convince me at all. And I felt like he didn't really earn his powers. That's a problem.
How did you become a doctor?
Study and practice, years of it.
There's a strength to him.
But is he ready?
In fact, there's a line in the movie where he's talking to the Ancient One. He's like, well, how long does this take, you know? And she's like, oh, well, how long did it take you to become a doctor? Years of study and practice. And then she's like, well, then we don't go to see him doing years of study and practice. It doesn't feel like that at all. They did try to kind of explain it where, oh, he's a natural, he has a photographic memory, he's also, you know, reading and doing homework in his astral form while he's sleeping. But still, I don't feel like he earned it. It was just too smushed in. It doesn't make sense to me that Doctor Strange is like learning all these mystical arts and is like learning how to open portals and like do all this crazy stuff, but then he's just doing it so he can go back to his normal muggle life. You've had a spiritual awakening. You're not gonna go back to being a normal person.
I spent my last dollar getting here. One-way ticket, and you're talking to me about healing through belief.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole, and you've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
Another criticism is that there's some logical steps missing within the character of Stephen Strange, okay? So Western medicine has failed him. You have Benjamin Bratt saying, like, my soul deepened, and I'm not talking about money, you know, and he sends him to Kathmandu, and he, like, finds this mystical place called Kamertaj. And then he won't accept that it's a mystical Eastern approach to things, you know? Like, I thought that that was a little odd. Like, if he's so desperate, I would assume that he would be willing to try anything, including spiritual stuff. I mean, isn't that why he went all the way to Nepal? And I feel like the biggest flaw with his character is that we never really see him have a spiritual awakening. I mean, we do see him being sent through and all this stuff, but you never have that moment where he's like, I believe, you know, like, and they kind of did it, but they didn't do it. He didn't really have a spiritual awakening if he's only learning all this stuff to go back to his material life. And that almost makes his character unlikable. In fact, he doesn't really have a lot of moments of him being likable, which is kind of a problem. I felt like this movie was missing the scene where you have the Ancient One. She's telling Doctor Strange that she's been peering through time, right? And like, I would have liked to see something where you see her peering through time and she sees Stephen Strange and like, he's the only one that can fix this. And so that's why she takes him on as a pupil, because she's seen him through her prophecies. Maybe there's a scene cut. Maybe he's gonna earn it in the next movie. We'll see. And even though I felt like Benedict Cumberbatch was having a hard time in this role, he didn't really find it yet. I feel like he will in the future, where when you see that cutscene in the middle of the credits where he's talking to Thor and he's like filling up his beer glass, like that was hilarious. So maybe when we see Doctor Strange interacting with other Marvel heroes, like maybe he'll kind of find his groove a little bit. I did really love the ending of Doctor Strange. I thought it had one of the strongest endings of a lot of the Marvel movies. When he goes to the dark dimension, a dimension without time, and he traps Dormammu in a time loop where he must infinitely be defeated by Dormammu, but then that dude's just stuck. So he's like, you gotta let me out of this. Like, I can't keep doing this. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was really clever. It was really interesting. I like what they're trying to do, okay? Because earlier, when you have Doctor Strange and he's talking to the Ancient One before she passes on to the other side, and they're on that balcony, and he's saying that his fear of failure is the thing that really drove him to be a good doctor, you know, and then she tells him, well, you gotta go beyond that to be a great doctor. The way he wins in the end is allowing himself to fail over and over and over again, which is something that's hard for his ego. Like, his ego has a really hard time with failing, and I thought that was great, but I felt like it could have been way better and more impactful if they had shown him failing before, like failing a patient or failing something. Like, I wanted to see what happens when he does fail. And I guess you could kind of say that that was going on with his hands, but it just wasn't tight enough. This movie's just so close. Like, it's so close, it's good, it's like you can totally watch it, you can totally have a fun time with it, but it could totally be a little bit better. As a self-proclaimed proponent of magic, I really wanted something great, but that's a personal problem. I've got weird personal issues going on with this, okay? I'm not your average viewer in the audience. They don't make movies for me. That's fine. I do feel like there's a better Doctor Strange movie somewhere out there in the multiverse. I do feel like it's out there. Like, it's a little tighter, it's a little cleaner. Honestly, I think I've been a little bit spoiled by the Doctor Strange comic. This is written by one of my favorite fucking writers over at Marvel, Jason Aaron. And so when I heard that he was writing a Doctor Strange comic, I was like, yes. And this is the first like solo Doctor Strange comic in like 10 years, okay? Like he has not had his own comic in a while. He's just been a part of teams and stuff. And so I highly recommend all of you guys check this out. I think this is so much more fun. I wish they had kind of taken a page from like this book a little bit more and done what's going on in here. Because what you have is this really great introduction to Doctor Strange, where you see him having like a crazy Tuesday, where he's fighting some astral parasitic infection on some child somewhere. Because that's the thing. He is an actual doctor within the Marvel Universe. He just treats mystical problems. So like if you've got some mystical rash, like you've got to go see him to get it fixed, okay? And so in this, you see him doing that sort of stuff. He's making house calls. He's dealing with parasitic astral stuff that's going on. And then you also have him like going to this bar that's like for other magical people, and they all hang out there, which is a lot of fun. I love that you have this force called the empirical, you know, this extra dimensional force. It's like very science and very materialistic. And so they're there trying to eradicate all of the magic in all of the multiverse. And Doctor Strange has to deal with it and like try to like stop them from draining the magic out of our realm, you know, because that would just be a super bummer. So I really loved this comic. I wish we could have gotten kind of like, this is such a great introduction to Stephen Strange. Like this is such a great introduction to him because you have a girl coming to him. She's got some fucked up rash on her head that's like these monsters on her head that are like growing, and she's like wearing this like beanie to hide it. And she's like, I need to get this shit fucking fixed. She hears about him, shows up at his doorstep, and then like he's like, holy shit, like what is this on your head? And it turns into like this kind of symptom of this larger thing that's going on with the empirical, an extra dimensional force that is trying to drain magic from all of the universes. Like they're like anti-magic. They're all about science, no magic. So he's gonna deal with this threat. It's really awesome. I think there's a lot of stuff that you could adapt from this comic. There's a lot of lessons that could be learned from this because I felt like it was a really great introduction to this character. You get to kind of see him through another person's eyes. So if you're interested in learning more about Doctor Strange, I highly recommend checking out Doctor Strange, Way of the Weird. It collects issues 1 through 5 in the first volume by Jason Aaron. You can check it out on Amazon.com or your local comic book shop, even better. And I also did a review of it. I did talk about it in one of our best comics episodes on Doctor Strange. If you're still watching this end slate, you can check out my review of this comic right here. What's going on? It's going down. Check it out. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching my Doctor Strange review. And a big shout out to my super patrons, Paul Argier, Gamaliel Thomas, John Zimmerman, and Joseph Duncan. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your support. And if you're already a patron, don't forget to check out what's going on your Patreon posts because we may have posted a sneak peek at some stuff we've been working on. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Just turn up that weirdness knob. Just turn up that weirdness knob.
I'll give you power, Jason Weingard, such as no living being has ever dreamed of.
Please, no!
She decides to give him a taste of what it would be like to be a god. And he experiences the infinite, okay? He becomes a god for just a moment, and he sees all the conflicting truths of the universe. He experiences cosmic madness, and it leaves him a gibbering idiot. His mind is totally turned to slush.